You got the call. Welcome to the big leagues, kid. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Call Up, presented by Triple Play Fantasy. We got a big crew here ready to talk prospects tonight. Of course, you know the normal guys on the show. We've got Michael Richards and John Helmkamp in the house tonight. John, back at it again. How was your week? How was watching all these prospects go crazy?
Oh yeah, it's been good. Crazy week like always. But it's been a good one. There's been so much movement with these prospects and so many people getting promotions and call ups and stuff like that. It's been really cool to watch. So, yeah, it's been a crazy week. I'm excited to dive into it. There's a lot to digest.
Did you update your Bobby K board?
You know, I'm actually about 2 days behind, but I do have his stats here. He's hitting 180 with 38 strikeouts and 22 hits. So we're at like about a 2-to-1 ratio, strikeouts to total base knocks for Bobby Dahlbeck. So yeah, just call up Tristan Cassis as soon as he's healthy. Just get him.
We got the reference in early. So
let's just get it out of the way. We'll just knock it off the top. Yep.
Of course, we got Michael Richards in the house. So you can't see, but his lovely voice you still can hear. Michael, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good. Glad to be back here, you guys. I tried to get my camera to work for you all, but I'll try to get it up and running next week. Excited to talk prospects again and have a guest for the first time too. Excited to hear his thoughts on some players.
You put it up on a tee for me, Michael, so I got to introduce him. Obviously, no Christian Crespo tonight. He is on the road starting his new job, but guys will still, of course, hear him throughout the whole season. Just obviously when he's not able to be here, we bring in guests. And our first one here, this guy is one of the best out there on Twitter, one of the best out there for prospects, for anything fantasy baseball. He's a sports info associate for Underdog Fantasy. He's also, you could say, the Backyard Baseball MVP. Super fan is his picture is Pablo from Backyard Baseball, if you guys remember that game. Tweets tons of great prospect stuff. I think he's one of the best follows for any type of baseball content out there. It is Brendan Tuma. What's up, man?
How's it going, David? I feel like legit uncomfortable not having my Pablo Sanchez picture up. I was told this was video. If Michael's getting out of this without video, I should have just thrown Pablo up and would have kept that brand going strong there.
No, man, I've been on enough streams with you now. I got to see your face because it's always nice to catch up and see all you guys here. And Brendan, please tell us, because for people that don't already follow you, please tell us all the work that you're doing with Underdog and then all the stuff that you're doing. I mean, you tweet out a bunch of prospect stuff every day.
Yeah, so I'm with Underdog Fantasy right now, and we're just getting started on baseball. This is our first season. I work on the news team, and we're just like in the weeds. We have someone monitoring TweetDeck, seeing what's happening in baseball news-wise every like hour of the day, basically. So when I'm on shift, I get like really in the weeds, and that just is a real, I know like a lot of us obviously like love baseball, and so it's a cool spot to be. The one thing I'm trying to do, and I'm excited about to be on the show with you guys tonight to talk prospects, because I've only been to a couple Worcester Red Sox games. So John, I heard you mention Cassis. I've seen him live a couple times, and I'm going to a Portland Sea Dogs game in a couple weeks. So I'm trying to get to like a few more stadiums.
Marcelo Meyer for me. We gotta give him the nod when you get there. Yeah, well, we're gonna fit in just swimmingly together because I'm actually talking about two Blue Sox players in tonight's show. So
all right, yeah, perfect.
Well, if that's not a lead, and I don't know what is. So let's talk, of course, as we always lead off here with our minor league players of the week. We give you a pitcher and a hitter from each of our guys here, and we got to go to our guest here, Brendan. You picked. I mean, this is a guy, even if you're not following prospects, I feel like everybody's starting to know. Vinnie Pasquantino, first baseman for the Kansas City Royals. I don't know when he's getting called up. There's a Twitter account out there that says, has he been called up? And it's always no, but it's hilarious. Why don't you tell us a little bit about one of the hottest prospect names right now?
Yeah, so Pasquantino, he doesn't have like he wasn't like, a top pick. He was actually an 11th round pick back in 2019. He's an older guy, you can tell just by his name and the way he looks. He kind of looks like a Moneyball player, not, like your up the middle shortstop that a lot of us prospect fiends like fall in love with and project on the frame and everything. But I think he's in an interesting spot to make an impact in both like redraft and dynasty leagues when he does get the call. And it should be very soon because the Royals aren't good. And for some reason, they're being really stubborn about calling up Pasquantino or Nick Pratto, even though they're getting like no production from Carlos Santana and Hunter Dozier right now. But Pasquantino, I think, is unique in the sense like, we just saw like Michael Harris got called up. He's like barely played in Double-A. Pasquantino's on the other side of it. This is his age 24 season. I'm just seeing if he's already turned 24 years old. So he's older in this day and age, with the jump to MLB seeming so tough for prospects right away. I kind of trust some of these older prospects a little bit more who have a ton of AAA reps to come up and handle big league pitching right away, as opposed to, like the CJ Abrams of the world, or, Jared Kelenic when he was rushed last year. I think Juan Yepez is a good comp for what we can expect from Pasquantino, not necessarily in their styles of play, but just in terms of like the immediate impact.
This is good we have you on the show because Michael's one of the best prospect minds, but he says he cannot compare players. So it's very nice that you have the comparison there. Michael, I know you're a big fan of Vinnie Pasquantino as well. And you also said you bumped him up over Nick Pratto this year, who I think going into the season was by many people ahead of Vinnie Pasquantino.
Yeah, it took me a while. Like last year, I was buying into Pratto quite a bit, the power and everything, and I was really into the age versus level stuff last year, even more so than now. And Pasquantino it just took me a while to get around to him. And then once I started comparing the advanced metrics, I just think he's a safer bat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, Michael, go ahead.
No, that's it. That's it.
So one of the things I really like about Pasquantino is he has a lot of power. He's shown already this year 14 home runs, but just consistently throughout the minor leagues, he's shown he has great plate discipline. He's somebody that hasn't struck out more than 16.1% of the time at any level in the minors, right now at a 15.2% K rate, and he's walking 12.7% of the time. So basically the K to walk is really good. Obviously the ISO, the power, everything is there. You don't see that type of plate discipline from power hitters too often. So I think he's going to give you a very safe floor for somebody for fantasy baseball. Obviously, somebody that you could feel about putting out there when he gets everyday reps. That's not going to drag you down too much if you're like in a points league. But in real life too, just for the Royals, he's going to be a cornerstone for that franchise and lock down the first base position or play DH if they have Pratto out there as well. So very much looking forward to him being called up. I would imagine sometime in June, hopefully, but you never know.
I think that it's got to be soon. I think that he's forcing the hand. If you look at his numbers just from the last week, he had a 478 batting average with 4 homers, 11 RBIs in 6 games.
Yeah.
So right now he's just on a tear. And when you're doing that at the AAA level, and it's not just like a random hot streak, you know what I mean? But you already have the safe floor. You've been putting up the production for a long period of time, and now you're just on an absolute heater. He's just sitting there knocking. Like, you got to give him the opportunity to get up and see what he can do. So I think it's got to be soon.
For sure. I do want to get to our next player here. Woo Sox player right here. You know who already wrote up this guy? That's Mr. John here. Ronaldo Hernandez. Why don't you talk about the Red Sox catcher up and coming prospect here?
Yeah, I think following up Vinnie Pasquantino, a 24-year-old who has shown good production for a long period of time, with another 24-year-old who has been like mostly horrible for the season, but now is just on a 2-week heater is a really interesting, comparison to make, because they're two very different stories, right? These are not players that have been doing it the same way, but I mean, you can't ignore what he's been doing. If we're talking about batters of the week, this isn't like this is our favorite prospect or someone that I think is going to be a future all-star, but player of the week, it's got to be Ronaldo Hernandez. He led all of minor league baseball in batting average this last week with a 591 average in 5 games with 13 hits, 2 homers, 3 doubles, 7 RBIs, and he had a walk. Only struck out twice as well, so it's not like he's can a bunch. His OPS was a 1.625. So this last week he's been tearing it up, and he's been doing it now for a couple weeks, dating back to May 15th. So little over a 2-week sample size here. His batting average over that period of time is 424, and he has a lot of singles. He's not like a huge power guy, which is interesting for a catcher, because a lot of times you think that they're going to be the ones that are going to come in and be, big boppers like your first baseman. He only has those 2 home runs in the last 2 weeks, compared to, quite a few singles, but he's been tearing it up. He's been getting on base a ton. The strikeouts to balls, based on balls, I'm not in love with. He's got 9 Ks to 4 walks over the last 2 weeks. But in terms of just player of the week honors, I mean, here you go. You can't really do it a whole lot better than what he's done over the last 7 days.
And you're right. Like, we need to preface that this section is not necessarily for season stats, but it's for what they've been doing over the last week to catch our eye, to be those players of the week. In general, though, he does definitely need to lower his K rate a little bit, 28.7%. It's not horrible, but the 3.5% walk rate, never been a guy that walks a lot. He's never even had a double-digit walk rate at any level, but somebody that can definitely help the Red Sox, if they were to have injuries at the catcher position, as he's been heating up, and you definitely want to keep an eye on that if you're the Red Sox and if you're a fantasy manager that could use help in that position. This next player here, I want to kind of open the panel up after Michael talks, because this guy's been a fixture. I think this is his 3rd time on the show. I know this is one of Michael's guys, and that's Ezequiel Tovar, shortstop in the Colorado Rockies organization. Just absolutely lighting it up over the last 10 days, Mike.
Yeah, like you said, we've talked about him a little bit already, but he just continues. I'm looking at these stats. I'm sticking with the 10 days instead of 7 because it gives me a little bit more. But like you see, 432, 530, 23, 865. He's not striking out. He's taking walks. He's stealing bases. He's hitting for power. And I always chuckle when I look at his scouting grades on Fangraphs, because they have him for 60 hit tool, but they have him for 40 power, 45 speed, which is, it's just wrong. His performance just shows that it's a lot different than that. So to me, this is a well-rounded player, like across the board, 20 years old at AA, a shortstop, checking all the boxes. The only con that I see from a dynasty perspective is the organization. Everything else is, he's just telling me this is a breakout. And I've already seen he's in the top 50 and the big lists now and the big updates with like James Anderson and Eric Cross.
Yeah, definitely someone that's really rising up the ranks. And for as bad as the Rockies organization is, they know how to produce shortstops. You saw it with Troy Tulowitzki, and then you saw it with Trevor Story, and then he could be the next big up-and-coming shortstop for the Rockies. Do you think that, Mike, that he would debut? Could you see an early 2023 debut for him, or do you think it's later than that?
Like I've said at every show almost, I'm terrible at predicting when players get pulled up, but he was producing in spring training this year. Like I think the Rockies see him as their future shortstop, and I think they'll call him up when they think he's ready, even if he's not. But I could definitely see an early call up next year, age 21. Yeah,
and I still always make you uncomfortable with that, because I want an answer from you, Michael, even if it's your prediction.
Better at it. It's just my predictions are so bad. Whoever I say is getting called up is going to be, like, I brought up Vinnie Pasquantino like 3 times in the call up section. Like, he's doomed. I'm not going to mention him again just so he'll get called up.
Well, those are some hitters that we're catching. All right, what about on the pitching side? Brendan, Kyle Harrison, we talked about him last week. His K per 9 is just absolutely bonkers. He's somebody that has elite strikeout stuff, and someone in the Giants organization that is really turning some heads right now.
Yeah, so I'm a little obsessed with the Giants as an organization and what they've done with a lot of their veteran players over the past couple seasons, whether it's the hitting side, guys like Evan Longoria, Tommy LaStella, Mike Yastrzemski, are on the pitching side. We've seen Kevin Gausman and now Alex Cobb, and they just have a really incredible player development department. And what I'm so excited about to see with them for the next few years is they have these really, really elite prospects that are about to come through the system. Because so far their big league success has been relied upon by veterans. But, Marco Luciano's coming, Luis Matos is in the pipeline, and we have Kyle Harrison now as well. He was basically a first round caliber pitcher in 2020 who fell to round 3 due to some signability stuff. So when you see that round 3 label on him, that can, make you think he's someone overperforming, but he really was a first round talent. And good strikeout stuff in 2021, his first pro season, but the command wasn't fully there. He was walking too many guys. This year in 2022, he's come out and he's striking out even more batters and he's walking a lot less. Obviously, that's what we want to see. I just really believe in the Giants as an organization. He gets a lot of Madison Bumgarner comparisons for just being a lefty, coming through the system pretty quick. It seems he's already up to Double-A. He was recently promoted, and I don't try to, go too deep in with, scouting, like actual film stuff, because I'm not, at every game by any means. But when I watch him pitch, I just really like his windup. It's really clean and efficient, and the ballpark's gonna be great for him when he gets to the Giants. He just checks so many boxes, both talent wise and organization, like situation wise.
And I really like him too because he's got a fastball that can touch 98. He throws it a lot up in the zone. He's also got a very sharp slider that he throws down and away to righties and down and in. Down and away to righties, down and into lefties. And it's just overall, I think he's got a great pitch mix that I think he can really work with. And like you said, a clean, just pitching delivery. And obviously, like I said, the strikeout stuff is really seems to be there. It just seems like he's got a lot of the tools to be a frontline arm here. He's kind of gotten his toes wet here in Double-A this year. Do you see him getting called up anytime? Obviously, I don't expect to see it this season. Do you think next season he would get the call, Brendan?
Possibly like late next season if it's a ways out. I agree with Michael. It's sometimes really hard to predict this stuff. It can be, kind of similar like stocks in that sense, trying to find the bottom. And at this point, like, let's just like give up on like guessing that, and we'll see these guys when we see them. Maybe late next year. I feel like a lot of times on Twitter, especially, and maybe this is just, I'm on Twitter too much, but it's like with some of these prospects, we're always screaming, call them up right away, call them up. And I've been extremely guilty of this in the past. Based on what we've seen the past couple of years, I'm trying to take a much more patient approach with a lot of these guys. And that's why I like Pasquantino, who has a ton of AAA experience. That's why I really liked Juan Yepez for like redraft leagues when he came right up. But so I think with Harrison, like let's let him develop, take his time. I think, midway late through next year, if the Giants are a contending team, we've seen a lot of playoff bound teams call up some pitching prospects for like late season bullpen roles. And, we'll see where he goes from there.
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about telling organizations to call players up quickly. That's just not something that I would ever do.
Yeah. John, I'm going to stay with you for a second because Brayan Bello impressed you so much that you said he needs to be on here again. Yeah. And why don't you go ahead and talk him up again? I think he might be listening this time.
Oh, that would be lovely. So Brayan Bello, we touched on him after his first AAA start, which was dominant, and it was fantastic. Since then, he's made 3 starts. He's logged 3 wins, and I know, like, talk about wins all you want in terms of whether they're a pitching stat or not, and whatever. When he's been on the hill, his team has won the game, which is the whole point of a pitcher, is to win the game. So 3 starts, 3 wins, 17 innings pitched. He's logged 13.76 Ks per 9 over his 3 AAA starts, and he's the only pitcher to strike out 10 plus in his league this year, and he just got promoted to that level like 2.5 weeks ago, whatever it was. So he's dominating at the AAA level. We've been talking about him. He's been someone we've talked about in our group chat. We've been hyping him up and saying, dude, look at this guy. Like, it's so cool to see what he does. He's got such a great arsenal of pitches, 98 to 99 mile an hour fastball with breaking balls that, can just disappear at times and fall off the table. It's really cool to see what he's doing, and Boston needs a lot of help in their rotation. I think that right now, if he keeps doing what he's doing at the AAA level, I and Boston's offense has turned it around, and they have been scorching hot. The stars are playing like stars. The role players are mostly chipping in, other than Bobby Dahlbeck striking out way too much. But Boston is looking like they could potentially be getting hot and get back into the conversation in the AL East this year. Like it was a disaster to start with, but now it's looking like, okay, well, hold on. If the offense can keep doing what they're doing, maybe we give Bello a shot. Maybe we do bring him up and start seeing if he can contribute to the pitching staff in terms of making a late season push for Boston. I don't think it's going to come anytime like really soon. I'm not saying that he's like right there knocking on the door. I think there's a chance we could see him this year. I think he should absolutely be in consideration for 2023 though.
We did talk about that. Maybe we could see the Sox using him kind of like in a Garrett Whitlock type of role, where
Right.
he'd come in the bullpen and work a couple innings where they really are struggling right now. And maybe he doesn't get starters look till potentially next season, but definitely I could see him helping out the Red Sox this year. So we shall see with that. Back to you, Mike, and Connor Phillips in the Cincinnati Reds organization. And I think people talk about Hunter Greene, Nick Lodolo, but they don't know many other prospects here. And you're here to educate the people.
Yes, Connor Phillips. So in this section, you know, I could always go with someone like Grayson Rodriguez, and he probably deserved it this week. But we've talked about him so much that I decided to go with Phillips. He's someone I know a little bit more about because he was in the Mariners organization last year. He was the player to be named later in the Winker and Eugenio Suarez deal. And I was intrigued by the research I did on him in the offseason. He's got plus fastball, plus slider, above average curveball, and the issue is command. And I had a smart person tell me that he could be this year's like Matt Brash as far as like a breakout. So I've had my eye on him from the start, I guess, of the season. And, you know, he's been good this year, almost 14 Ks per nine. His walks have been going down at each level the last 2 years. It's still a little bit higher than I'd like to see, but it's still promising. 2.86 xFIP, you know, 2.75 FIP, 2.53 ERA. So all that stuff's lining up. I've seen him pitch a few times. He's got an electric arm, so it's just one of those guys where it's going to come down to his command. But he's someone that doesn't get it talked about a ton. He's probably rostered in about 13% of leagues on Fantrax. So he's still more of like a dynasty player, but he's someone I'd like to invest in on the pitching side right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, very exciting. Somebody in the Reds organization. They do need a lot of help there right now, and somebody that is looking really good for them. I do want to move on to some notable promotions, some call-ups from this past week. We saw Michael Harris II get called up to the Atlanta Braves, and somebody that's a great defensive player. He's got some power. He's somebody that and I saw the comparisons defensively to some other Braves top prospects just on that side of the ball. But the concern was just his chase rate overall. Is he going to be somebody that swings a lot in the major leagues? As you could see, he had in the, you know, in Double-A, a 20% strikeout rate isn't too bad. A 33% strikeout rate in the major leagues early on. Never been someone that walks a ton, but very athletic, has tons of potential. I think the Braves are really excited about this guy, and he's a left-handed hitter that has an ability to make a lot of hard contact. So I think he could be very much a good fit there with the Braves this season. Randy Contreras for the Pittsburgh Pirates, just absolute stud. Glad he got called back up there. And Royce Lewis was called back up, was playing center field, and then he went on the IL. Brendan, is there any of these three that you feel like you really want to just hammer home just the greatness of any one of these three guys?
I'm just really interested to see what happens with Harris. I mentioned him, you know, as like the opposite of a Pasquantino type. He only has 43 games above high A, and I've really historically been the type to push these guys. Like, this guy's so talented, like, get him up right away. I think during the juice ball era, the barrier to entry to be in the major leagues was just, for a hitter especially, it wasn't as fierce as it is right now. So we saw so many guys, even if they came up and weren't, you know, superstars right away, they were able to, you know, be big league regulars. And I just think it's a lot tougher right now. I'm really excited to see how he does, because with all this, it's, you know, then there's guys like Juan Soto who, you know, barely played in the minors, and it seemed like they were rushed. Royce Lewis, who I am going crazy over these days based on his big league play and just like watching him, I thought like I wasn't super excited about him this season when he first came up because it just like seemed soon. So some of these guys, if they are legit, if they can play, they'll find a way to make it work. I'm a little skeptical that Harris is ready based on all of that. But again, just like we saw with, Royce Lewis this year as an example, the guy hadn't played in 2 years basically, and he just like looks the part so well.
I agree. And these three guys are all exciting players. We will see, especially with, like you said, Michael Harris, who doesn't have a lot of experience, but all three guys are definitely electric and exciting to watch. Hopefully Royce Lewis will not be on the IL very long. Let's get to our prospect watch. Some players that just caught our eye here as we watch them kind of rise up the ranks here. And Brent, I'm going to go back to you. Ken Waldichuk of the New York Yankees and their organization. What about him has been kind of making you want to watch him play?
He's just a really interesting person in general. He's he had this nickname coming up. He was called as like the King of Funk. And he's really always been into, not just like an overpowering fastball, but he's into throwing like some interesting breaking balls. And the Yankees as an organization right now are doing a really good job with their organization-wide pitch development. There's been articles in The Athletic. Lindsay Adler's done a good job of profiling it about they're teaching these guys in the lower minors and also in their big league rotation and bullpen to throw this pitch called the whirly, which is basically a slider with a bunch of horizontal movement. It seems like, from what I can tell, I'm on this TweetDeck feed all day. I read a ton of The Athletic articles. From what I can tell, the smartest organizations are developing these pitches on an organization-wide basis. And Waldichuk, it seems like, has really taken a liking to this sort of player development program that the Yankees are providing for him. And it's just like really working. His numbers, Michael, I know you mentioned, age related production at the beginning of the show. So when you look at Waldichuk numbers, like they're insane, but you got to keep in mind he was like a 24-year-old in Double-A. So he's facing guys who are a lot younger than him. I think with Waldichuk, he's one of these guys who, again, he's older. I think he's got a lot of experience. So when he does come up, he's going to be kind of ready to hit the ground running. I don't necessarily think he's, going to reach the level of prospect hype as, Grayson Rodriguez or Daniel Espino or Uri Perez. And a big reason is that his age. But I mean, I'm just not betting against Yankee pitching right now. I've seen what they've done with Nestor Cortez and Michael King and Clay Holmes and all these guys they're developing. Whatever they're doing is working. And Waldichuk is, it's similar to Kyle Harrison wanting to bet on the Giants as an organization. Like I'm wanting to bet on the Yankees, specifically their pitching development right now.
Yeah, we've seen certain clubs like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Marlins. Like there's these clubs that when the pitchers are in the organization, they're going to develop them the proper way. And then you see stuff like the Kansas City Royals, who are the first team that comes to mind that I get a little bit more scared when I see prospects of the pitching side in their organization and wonder if they'll develop.
Asa Lacy.
Yeah, Asa Lacy right now is struggling, but we're talking about Brady Singer and a bunch of those guys. Drew Lynch. There's just countless ones that seem like they haven't lived up to their potential. But I will say, like you're saying, Brendan, like having these different pitches, the sweeper is another one that kind of everybody's now, it's more mainstream now, but these types of things that they're working with these guys, I like the call there. John, Crow-Armstrong, who I like him a lot. Somebody that I think I was very surprised that was given up in last season in a trade. I thought he was a little bit more valuable in that for the haul that they got. Can you talk about Pete Crow-Armstrong and what about him has caught your eye?
I definitely can. And also, I made that font way too small. I'll make it bigger next week. Sorry about that. But yeah, he was literally promoted to high A today. He's 20 years old, so we haven't seen him at high A yet. But at low A, Myrtle Beach, the infamous team that created the beer bat that I'm currently holding in my hand, they were selling them at their stadium. Yeah. They weren't allowed to sell them because there was like legality issues with it. But what you could do is you could Venmo the general manager of Myrtle Beach money to buy a beer, and then he would buy the beer, drink the beer, and then they would sterilize and clean the bats and ship them out to you. So it was their loophole around actually being able to sell the bats. But anyways, at Myrtle Beach, he tore it up. He had a 354 batting average, 445 on base, a 557 slug. He was killing it. He was the player to be, or the player that was involved in the trade for Javi Baez last year with the Mets
That's
organization.
what it was. Thank you.
Yep.
I couldn't remember the trade.
Yep. Plus speed. A first-round draft pick, 19th overall in the 2020 draft. So just one of those young players, but already getting the promotion up another level. And clearly the Cubs must love him if they were willing to, like, if that was the guy that they were targeting in the trade for Javi Baez. I think this is someone that the Cubs are going to be really high on, and someone that they're going to be, giving every chance to succeed and excel throughout their system. So he's still a ways off, just getting promoted to high A right now. It's not going to be anytime soon, but he's someone that I'm watching. His speed is crazy. His ability to, tear it up on the base paths is awesome. He had 13 stolen bases in 38 games at Myrtle Beach this year. So just an interesting name, a young guy to just kind of put on the back burner and keep in the back of your mind for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I really like him as a prospect, and like you said, a few years away, but keep that name in your mind there. Mike, Esteury Ruiz, San Diego Padres second baseman, somebody that people need to be watching.
Yeah, he's someone that was popping up on my early filter lists, just looking at good hitters that walk and don't strike out, and everything. He's checking all the boxes basically. He's just like Tovar. He's drastically outperforming his scouting grades. He was said to have a 35 hit, 40 game power. The double plus speed is legitimate. He's got 33 stolen bases in 38 attempts this year, which is his most appealing thing. But when he's piecing together all these other areas of his game too, as a middle infielder, he's capable of playing outfielder as well. The Padres were already trying C.J. Abrams up in the majors recently. This is someone that I think is probably not even really talked about a lot outside of hardcore, dynasty stuff. So he's someone I would target in as many leagues as possible, because there's a combination, like we were talking earlier, like the Juan Yepez type guys and Jose Miranda, 23 years old in Double-A. That's when they broke out last year. That's what's happening here, except he's got double plus speed. So I'm picking him up, and I think everyone listening should too.
And that's what we try to do here at the call up. We try to give you some names here that maybe your league mates might not know yet. So a certain amount of time before the prospect names become mainstream, and someone like Esteury Ruiz here, he's somebody that maybe people might not know about. And just another fact here too, from 2016 to 2021, he has the 6th most stolen bases in the minor leagues over that span, 158 steals. So somebody that can really help out in that category when he eventually does get the call. And you see 33 stolen bases so far in the 2022 season. So again, like Mike already said, somebody you need to make sure you keep your eye on for sure. Our last segment, who's next? Who could be next to get the call? And Brendan's very optimistic. Oneil Cruz, despite some shakiness so far in AAA, you think he's on the cusp of being called up to the Pittsburgh Pirates?
Yeah, so of course, I make this pick. We planned out all our picks ahead of the show, and he's dealing with a bit of like a minor ankle injury, so that might slow him down by a little bit. I mean, at this point for the Pirates, they're probably waiting to Super 2 deadline anyway. Oneil Cruz was one of the top performers in spring training in 2022, and they still didn't break camp with him, even though a lot of other clubs did break camp with their top prospects, Bobby Witt Jr., Julio Rodriguez, Spencer Torkelson, et cetera. But Oneil Cruz, I think, and I'm just like really reading the tea leaves here from beat reporters and articles that I've written. It seems like when Oneil Cruz went down, he kind of sulked a little bit and wasn't wanting to play the outfield, and that was kind of the Pirates' plan for him, get him some exposure to some other positions, so that when he could come up, he would be ready to contribute in multiple areas. Anyways, he was doing, pretty terribly in the month of April, but I just wanted to note that his numbers in May are just like so much better at this point. And I know a lot of the redraft community might have moved on from him if you were stashing him those first few weeks after your draft. But with Super 2 coming up and with him getting on a tear in the month of May, this is still someone who, if and when he does get the call, like the physical tools, the fact that we have baseball savant data for him and he had, 118 mile per hour batted ball last season in 2 games in the major leagues, like the physical tools are still there. He's still someone who could really make an impact. And if we are playing with a de-juice ball in baseball this season, I think we're kind of seeing, power kind of matters a little bit more. Like Aaron Judge is, someone who's obviously really strong and always has been, but his ability to hit the ball really hard, it was kind of overkill in the height of the juice ball era. And that's just a way of saying that Oneil Cruz, his ability to impact the ball, I think is something that we're going to want to buy into.
The power and speed combination is very tantalizing, and hopefully he gets to show that in the major leagues very soon. Last player we're going to talk about here on this episode, Riley Greene, outfielder for the Detroit Tigers, would have probably broken camp with the team in spring training if not for a broken foot. And he's now kind of having his, if you want to say, a second spring training now, what I could imagine to be called up to the Tigers after this is over. Michael, you think that time is going to be soon?
Yeah, I kind of cheated here since I've been so bad at doing call-ups. I know the Tigers want to call him up. It's just he's basically just getting ramped up, moving up the levels. Once he gets enough plate appearances, they're going to call him up, and he's going to be in the lineup pretty much every day, just like Torkelson. You have the same issues you have with any prospects of, are they ready to produce in the major leagues immediately? But as far as his overall skill set, he's someone that I was really high on by the end of last year. I had him ranked just behind Julio Rodriguez and Bobby Witt going into the offseason. So plus hit tool, plus power, and he's showed the ability to steal bases as well. 16 out of 17 last year. So he's still young. He's only 21 years old. So I still view him more like most prospects, like Brendan's been talking about. These younger ones, I do view them more as dynasty players. But he's also a special talent long-term and someone that I would be willing, like I'm more interested in him than like say Michael Harris this season if I was going to gamble on someone. So Riley Greene, I think he's going to be up soon. If he's out on your waiver wire, check him out.
Riley Greene, definitely a name for this year for redraft leagues. Obviously in Dynasty, he should be rostered. If he's not, that's unbelievable, but somebody name that you guys should know. And on that note, that's going to wrap up the call up for week 7. Brendan, man, thanks so much for hopping on the show tonight and joining us.
Dude, this was so much fun. I wish we could go like even longer. I know you guys like to keep the show nice and tight. I think that's really smart. Help it stand out a little bit more and everything, but we're going to have to talk offline, or I'm going to have to come back on again this summer once I've gotten some more of these live looks that I'm trying to get at minor league games this year.
Yeah, man, there's always an open invitation back for you. Again, one of the best minds out there. And for the people that, again, don't know you or haven't followed you yet, please give us where they can find you and then where they can find your work.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at TooMuchTuma, and I do my writing for Underdog Fantasy. It's like underdognetwork.com, but just follow on Twitter if you're interested. I always legit love to talk baseball. Like I love the interactions. For me, it's like the community of fantasy baseball and prospects and all of it just makes like the world of difference. It really is a motivating factor.
So, and please also, if you guys like fantasy baseball, you like talking baseball, there's also a Patreon out there that Brendan has too. Is that linked in your Twitter bio?
Yeah, it's there. And it's just like little extra stuff that I like to do, going a little bit deeper on prospects and, redraft rankings that I like to like update every day, and just a little extra bonus content and whatnot. But
I love it. Yeah. Again, make sure you're following him if you're not already, and check out all his great content. And that you guys that check out the show every week, we truly appreciate you guys. Please make sure that you guys smash that like button on YouTube, help boost the YouTube algorithm. If you want to comment on John's beard, leave a beard emoji down in the comments below. Something that we can make sure you guys know you're watching the show, checking us out here. And if you're on the podcast version, we appreciate you guys. Make sure you're subscribed there. And that's going to do it For John, for Michael, for Brendan, I'm David. We'll catch you guys in week 8 of the call.